the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome back to The View from C-Deck, and I'm your host, Just Matt, back again with the Dyerwolf, Casey Dyer, and he is ready to give us his in-person Dyerwolf delights. I mean, he wants them to be changed, Dyerwolf Dimes now. Is that what it is?
I didn't want to nickname him at all, but I couldn't. So I had to think something.
They weren't going to be until you weren't on here, and I was like, I got to call him something stupid to let everybody know. We got to come up with something dumb for Hoss, though. He sent us his picks for this week as well, and
Jason's, I don't know.
Jason's junk. That's a little bit too sexual, maybe.
Yeah, Jason's.
Hoss's hand picks. Nah, we'll come up with something by the end of the show.
All right.
Hoss's hooey.
Hokum.
Ooh. Okay. But we're ready here. Enough of that. We're ready to get down to some gambling picks to make some money. We didn't have too good of a week last week. Both of us went 1-4. Hoss did go 3-2, which is probably like top 10% though, amongst all gamblers, because the whole entire top 10 did not cover their spread. And if you are like most people, you tend to go with favorites, especially early in the season. And if you did, you ate it last week and lost all your money. But we're here to make it back this week. And being the Buckeye show that we are, we're going to start off with the Buckeyes. On our podcast earlier, previewing the game against Toledo, we're 32.5-point favorites, over under 61. I took us both to cover because I think the offense has something to prove a little bit, and we're getting Jackson Smith-Njigba and Julian Fleming back, and I think they'll be wanting to fire on all cylinders. Defense, I think, will just do its thing. It's maybe the more consistent side of the ball for us, and I think we cover, and I think we hit the over too. I think we win something like 56-10, something like that, and cover the over of 61.
Yeah, I'd say I think we cover, and that over-under, man, that's a tough one. But the way our defense has been playing, I know Knowles said in his press conference he doesn't like that term, bend, don't break.
Yeah.
But it kind of seems like that's what it is at the moment. So I'm thinking it really depends if we give up a touchdown or not. If we don't, which we haven't in 6 quarters or something like that, I think either 6 or 7.
6.
If we don't and we give up like 6 points, I don't know if we're going to score 56 to cover that 61, especially with Jackson coming back. We kind of touched on it in the previous podcast where it might make things a little clunky at first, kind of getting everybody involved. So I'm going to go, we're going to cover, but under like a 48-6 type of game, something like that.
That's a Direwolf dime, right? The cover for the Buckeye.
That will be one of mine. Yep.
All right. Noon slate. Against the games that could have been good on paper, end up being not so great. Oklahoma and Nebraska. Real quick, we can touch on Nebraska. Firing Scott Frost's shitty ass. 3 games into the season, taking L's to Georgia and Southern. Can't be having that. They were so excited to do this that they could have waited until October 1st and saved $7.5 million and didn't do it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, this is no way a real statement, but part of me is thinking, did he lose on purpose so he can make $7.5 million?
And then I'm done.
I mean, what the hell? I was shocked when he got fired because, I mean, just the money aspect of it. But you lose that game, I mean, jeez, you're not going anywhere.
No,
I mean, if they would have beat them and then hung with Oklahoma, made it a close game, and then they're 4-2 at that point, he might have been able to hang on to his job.
Yeah.
But
once you lose that game, you're a dead man walking in, and the players know that too. So it makes sense if you're trying to I don't know if you can save this season. It's probably that ship has maybe sailed. I don't know. Big Ten West, pretty awful. If you haven't noticed yet, Big Ten West, only Minnesota doesn't have a loss 2 games into the season. Pathetic.
But on the contrast of that, the Big Ten East is looking pretty damn solid.
It is. The usual suspects, especially.
Yeah. I mean, even the bottom dwellers like Rutgers, I mean, they got that win over Boston College. They won last week too.
Yeah. There haven't been many losses on the eastern side yet.
Yeah.
Has there been a loss?
Let's see. Michigan State has
the Big Four or not.
Michigan.
Indiana beat
What about
Illinois. I don't think they've lost yet. Maryland hasn't lost. They blew out both teams. They played 2 scrubs. Yeah, I think they're.
Who's the 7th? Who am I forgetting?
That's 7.
That is 7? Okay. So there's 0 losses.
Yeah.
And 6 of the other 7 have a loss.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not good. But Oklahoma, Nebraska only getting 11 at home. One of those weird lines, but I mean, it's not something I would bet on in this game. I think Oklahoma covers, but we've seen weirder things. And new coach, maybe they just play inspired out of their butts. They were closer than they should have been with Oklahoma last year, and Oklahoma struggled for 3 of the 4 quarters against Kent State this past week, which is not something you should do.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Like you said, we've been picking 5 games, but I got 3 picks coming later called my ballsy picks, where the spread looks too good to be true, so you bet on the opposite side. And that was one where I almost did it because, I mean, they just lost to some scrub.
Georgia Southern.
And they lost to Northwestern when they should have won that game. He goes for an onside kick inexplicably, winning by double digits in the third quarter. So all signs point to Oklahoma covering that easily, which means that's what Vegas wants you to think.
Yeah.
But then again, they didn't lose to anybody by double digits last year.
Yeah. Or this year.
Yeah. It's tricky, so I stayed away from it completely. But yeah, that one's tough.
Who would you pick?
I mean, my gut would be Oklahoma.
Okay. We'll go with Oklahoma. Yeah. If we pick the games that I didn't put as my actual 5 last week, I'd have killed it. But we'll see if I do that again this week. Here, though, comes one of my picks and one of your Dyer's dimes. Georgia and South Carolina, also a nooner. Georgia is a cover machine the last 2 years. They cover constantly, although I don't think they did this past week. I don't think there was a line against Samford. There was no line. They won 33-0. They're FCS. There's never a line when they have that kind of game. Minus 24, though, going to South Carolina. But South Carolina, one of the worst run defenses in the country already. They have not been good. And they have a bunch of injuries on defense coming off of last week. And now there comes Georgia, who loves to run and play smash mouth football and seems to be clicking a little bit on offense now. And their defense looks like it hasn't dropped off at all despite losing 9 guys to the NFL.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That was one of mine. Georgia minus, what do you have, 24?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've been the most dominant team in the country so far. It's hard to tell how good Oregon is. We might find out this weekend. I don't know how much we can really tell from BYU, but BYU's like 12th in the country, so we'll see. They're coming off a big win against Baylor, but I mean, they absolutely took Oregon to the woodshed.
Yeah.
And highly touted team coming into the year. So that's what has me pretty confident they'll cover that 24. And that's not a small number going away in the SEC, but it's nothing crazy. If they give up, single digits or even 14, I don't think they're going to be held under 40. So
yeah,
I think that 24 is.
I think it's like a 38-7 or 45-10, like that somewhere in that range. I think it's got that kind of written all over it.
Yep.
Alrighty. Also at noon, one we have to cover just because you picked the spread on this one. Michigan continues their very tough road to being undefeated and starting 3-0. Mighty UConn comes in. No money line on the game. That's how close this one's supposed to be. 47.5 is the current spread for UConn getting 47.5.
Oh no, that helps me. Okay.
Yeah, helps you. Gave you an extra half point there.
Yeah. Yeah. My theory there is, and it's not much here, but they've beaten their first two opponents by 46 and 44. It's basically the same, but it's lower. And based on an article I saw, who was it? It might have been, now I can't think of who it was, but they ranked the bottom 25 teams in football. And guess who the last and the next to last were? Hawaii and wait, who else did they play? I didn't write it down.
Colorado State. Worst and second worst. So UConn's got to be better, right? No. No, they don't. UConn is dreadful. Not even in a conference anymore.
I mean, they were part of that poll, though, is my thought process there.
Yeah.
I mean, 47 is a huge number. I think the spread on Hawaii was like 52 or something, and they won by 46.
They did not cover. They won by 46. They were up 42-0 at halftime, though, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm thinking it's going to be same old story here. They get up big and slow down. So that's an enormous number. I don't feel like that's out on a limb to pick UConn plus 47.5.
I would take Michigan, I think. But these are the games. I said in our last podcast, the last gambling one, these are the lines I do not put money on because too much can happen. You could be just like last week. They're at 42-0. They're easily on pace if they want to. They could have covered that 52. And then they put in backups and things happen. And
plus last week is in the back of my mind a little bit too, where all these top 10 teams were favored by huge numbers and none of them covered. So
yeah,
that's got me leaning towards UConn a little bit there.
yeah, taking the Jason the Hoss's way and getting yourself some points.
Yep.
Speaking of, did you both also have? We'll move to that 3:30 game you brought up earlier, BYU and Oregon. Top 25 matchup, one of the only ones this week, and it's going to be interesting. Oregon rebounded to smack some FCS schools 70-13 last week, Eastern Washington, I think. After they got absolutely throttled by Georgia and manhandled and emasculated, any thesaurus word you want to look up to say they got their ass kicked. BYU is 3.5-point dogs, though, still. And that half point is pretty nice. I almost took this game. But you and Jason you and the Hoss both had BYU plus 3.5 here against the Ducks.
Yep. My thought process there, I mean, BYU took down old Desmond Howard's playoff team last week. So hopefully that doesn't go in the reverse. The reverse of my theory here, where they could get up and down, like underperform next week because of that big win. You know, kind of like when we came back and beat Penn State a couple years back, and then lost to. I always forget if it's Purdue or Iowa. That links together with me, but where we win a big game and then go into the next week and lose. But I don't care how good Georgia is. I know I just talked about how dominant they are, but if you lose by 40 points, you're not that good. I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? I don't care who. So I think they were highly overranked, mostly because they beat us last year.
Yeah.
And BYU is obviously legitimate. I mean, they just beat Baylor. They're 2-0. They look solid on tape, and that 3.5. I mean, they're dogs. So it could be a fight, and a last-second field goal could beat them, but they'd still cover.
Yeah, I say that half point is what is tempting about that BYU. I'd probably take BYU too because of that, and I also think Bo Nix sucks, and Bo Nix is. I don't know how this dude keeps getting praised and hyped anywhere. He had a good game last week against a scrub team, but he's never done it against a good team. And I don't think that continues. I can definitely see Oregon winning the game, but I think it could be like a 24-23 type game real easily.
Yep.
Other 3:30, the 3:30 slot is not too bad here because we also got Penn State traveling to Auburn. Sean Clifford starts his like 313th career game in college. Down south return trip for Auburn going up there last year for the whiteout in what was actually a really good game. And Penn State 3-point favorites. You and the Hoss both picked on this game, but you split the side. Tell me why Auburn's going to win this. I have a feeling the quarterback is the reason. The other team.
Yeah, that's the main reason. I think they're pretty evenly matched. It's going to be a hell of a game. I feel like it's probably going to be one of the best games of the weekend. I'm guessing, as far as like back and forth, last second comeback, that type of thing. But I'm giving Auburn the edge mostly because they're at home. It's +3. You know, I mean, they might lose by 3 exactly, which is what I wouldn't lose money on it, I guess, if that's the case. But I just I saw Penn State earlier this year. Now I can't even think of who they were playing when he came back and beat them. Purdue. He played awful, probably 80% of the game, if not more, and then had that one great drive at the very end to come back. And I could see something very, very similar to that happening. That spread, I believe, was 3.5, and they won by 4.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be tight. I almost stayed away from it, but I just have a feeling Auburn's is going to pull it out. I think they're actually going to win outright.
That would be +130 on the money line there. You just want to take that? A little more juice for you.
Well, we're
picked 15 on the points. They're getting that, which is a little bit worse than normal.
Yeah.
Over under 47.5. They're thinking defensive battle, which I like. You getting 3 points if that's the case too.
Yeah. So they're thinking like 24 to 20 or 25,
like 27, 24, something like that. No,
yeah.
Right. You're right. Never mind. Not me. Like 24, 23. Like I said, I'll take that. Yeah. I just don't believe Sean Clifford. So
yeah, he's
not good enough.
He's like just that quarterback that is just good enough to win you games, and you're not going to play Drew Aller over him because he's a freshman, but you probably should because the ceiling's only so high.
Yeah.
With Clifford, the best you're going to go is probably like 9-3, 10-2, maybe if you beat everybody else except us
and Michigan. Yeah, they're not beating us or Michigan.
No,
sure. They have to go to Michigan too.
I'd say 10-2 is hitting their peak. So yeah.
I don't even think they hit that though. Ole Miss at Georgia Tech, a game I picked here. I think Georgia Tech stinks to high heaven, and I like Lane Kiffin to at least get it to 17. Ole Miss is 16.5-point favorites. I like them coming in there mainly because, like I said, I don't trust Georgia Tech on either side of the ball, especially their offense. They're still the same scrubs they've been for a while since they left the triple option, and Ole Miss can stop the run. Georgia Tech still can't throw the ball, and I think that works out well for the Rebels going down there, getting themselves a little dub and getting me some money. Colorado at Minnesota, also a 3:30 game that I picked. Big Ten game. Minnesota, one of the best running teams in the country. Colorado, one of the worst run defenses in the country. Now, part of that's they played a service academy, and you know how triple option, you can't really, if you play that and give up 300 yards, which they're averaging 350 yards given up a game on the ground. Let me say that again. They are averaging giving up 350 yards a game through 2. They've gotten blown out by TCU and Air Force. And Minnesota's basically this. That's exactly fits right in. 27 seems like a huge number, but they've lost by 25 and 31 their first 2 games. And I like the Golden Gophers to cover on that. You saw it with Ibrahim last year against us.
Yeah, luckily he got hurt.
Yeah. And then one more 3:30 game Jason picked. I don't know why, because he has a man crush on Vanderbilt's quarterback who let him down last week, one of his losses. He picked Vanderbilt the +3 on the road at Northern Illinois, a MAC school favorite against an SEC school. Hilarious. I kind of like that pick because why? But Vanderbilt didn't look good last week against Virginia. Just got stomped.
Dogs.
What was that?
Vanderbilt's 3.5-point dogs.
3-point dogs, yeah.
So that would make me think a ballsy pick would be the opposite side of that, right?
You would think that, but I think they just. I mean, it's Vanderbilt though.
Yeah, true.
And Hawaii may just be that bad, and that was just smoke and mirrors. I'm gonna call them Hoss's Handies. How about that? Since he's not around, that's what we're gonna go with.
All right.
All right. Moving on now to some of the better night games. Yeah, we already covered Ohio State. I have one of the best games of the week. I think is going to be Texas Tech and North Carolina State. North Carolina State did not look good in their opener against ECU. Watched a lot of that game. They should have lost, and East Carolina missed an extra point from the college line, not the deeper one. We don't talk too much about missed kicks though with the Bengals this past weekend, but
that was great.
Long snappers are important. It turns out. But Texas Tech is getting 10 at North Carolina State. They beat Houston, I believe, last week. I just think their offense is what it always is. They're back to throwing for 400 yards a game and running for 100. But I don't know if they win outright, but I think they keep it close enough. I just don't trust NC State. I don't trust their offense for the way they've looked so far to have a blowout. So I'll take NC State by a touchdown at home, but Texas Tech to cover there, giving me the +10.
I almost picked that one, and I actually was going to go with NC State.
Does that end up being – oh, were you?
I thought about it, but I did not. But, yeah, if I had to, that's what I would go with, NC State.
One interesting one none of us picked that I'm going to just talk about real quick is Iowa is -23 at home against Nevada. Over-under of 39, though. But my question is, why?
Oh, my God.
They have only scored 14 points, and only 10 of them on offense in their first two games combined.
Oh, I know. I get it. But it's Nevada. That shows you how bad their offense is perceived, and it's reality. It's not just a perception. But 39, I mean, that's what? What's the spread?
23.
So that's like, oh my God. It's like 30-7.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
but
you're saying bet the under.
I'm saying, what the hell is this 23? Can they score 23?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they can. They haven't broke 200 yards of offense yet. Like, there's so much that I'm like, why is that the spread?
Yeah.
That said, it's a weird one. Like, so go with Iowa.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting night game here, especially with the spread. I think all of us picked this game. No, I don't think Jason did. But this is one of your ballsy picks, one of my regular picks. Michigan State is an underdog on the road, even though they're the 11th ranked team in the country against unranked Washington, led by the penis, Michael Penix. I am taking Washington, though, and laying the 3 points because their offense in general has been excellent their first two games of the season with Penix at the helm. And we saw Michigan State, they've blown out their first two opponents, but they haven't played that great passing team yet. And we saw with their secondary last year, and in our season preview, we both said we don't believe that it can be fixed that quickly to stand up to good passing attacks. It can be helped, but not stand up to. It can be better than the worst in the country like it was last year, but not this year. But I'll take Washington in a pretty high scoring affair because Michigan State can pound the rock. They can move the ball. They can score.
Yep, I'm right there with you. They were like, however many teams are in the FBS now. It used to be like 117, then it went to like 120 something.
It's like 130, I think now, something like that.
Yeah, 130th in pass defense. If a vast improvement would be like 60th, but
yeah.
But that's still, if you're playing a great passing attack, you're going to give up some numbers. So did you have it at 3.5 or 3?
3.
Okay, see, I had 3.5, and I still took them. So that was one of my ballsies, like you said, where the average fan that doesn't really watch other teams, but they see that number beside Michigan State and their dogs against an unranked team.
Yeah.
Your gut tells you, oh, I'm betting on them. So the ballsy pick is Washington -3.
I'm just going with them too. It's also those crazy lines where you like, what does Vegas know that I don't? I'm just going with it.
Yep, that's the ballsy pick.
Here's another one. This is, I believe you both had the ballsy pick on this one. The Hoss here has University of Texas at San Antonio, UTSA, plus 12.5. Texas minus 12.5 at home, coming off of what should have been one of the best upsets of the season already, but they weren't able to close out that game. Seems like a low spread, though, against a G5 school, but UTSA has been pretty good lately. You both picked the Roadrunners, though.
Yep, it's the same story I just said, where Texas just gave, the best college team in the past decade a run for their money. They should have had the game. They basically won it, but they pissed down their leg at the very end. There's a number of questionable calls, but now they're playing UTSA, who you had mentioned earlier, that they're no scrub. They're not like not like a Hawaii or anything like that. But Texas went to ranked after losing a game. That shows you how good that loss was. And they're only 12.5 point favorites from what I saw. Is that what you had?
Yeah, 12.5. Yep.
So 2 touchdowns. That's what they'd have to win by. Your gut would tell you Texas is going to easily cover that. So that's why I went with the opposite, UTSA plus 12.5.
Plus 12.5. I kind of like that one, but that's not one I would really want to bet on either way, because I can see Texas building off that game or having the emotional letdown either way. I think I kind of like you guys' ballsy pick, though, there. The emotional letdown seems, again, they're not a great team, and they lost Ewers for a while.
I did not want him to look good, but he did. In the little bit of time he played.
Definitely looked better than Hudson Card.
Yeah, he had that. There was like a 50-yard pass he had that the guy got tackled on like the 4-yard line.
Mm-hmm. All right, another interesting game at the 9 p.m. slot, though. The U travels to Aggieville, to College Station, to play Texas A&M, who just ate that L against Appy State. Sorry, SEC. Sunbelt is superior, it would appear. And interesting enough, though, Texas A&M still 5-point favorites against the 13th ranked Hurricanes. A low over-under, too, of only 45. So they're thinking defensive battle, even though Miami's got a great quarterback. And Jason took Miami plus 5 in this one. Is this one of your ballsy picks, too?
No, it wasn't. I thought about it. It wouldn't have been a ballsy pick because I don't think either one is obvious. I mean, like you said, Miami's ranked so high now, and A&M looked like crap against Appalachian State. They lose. So your gut would say Miami's the better team, but A&M's had these ridiculous recruiting classes. They were number 6 in the country. So it's like maybe they just had an off game and they come out and just freaking dominate. I could see that happening too. So I just stayed away from it.
I almost picked this game because of that same thing. I was going to pick Miami. I was like, you know what? I'll take the points. I'll take 24-20 type game, which seems to be what they're projecting here. Yeah. And I was like, I'll take those points, and they at least keep it close enough. But then I'm like, man, maybe Jimbo lights the fire under their asses for this, and they win by. I mean, they could just win by a touchdown and cover. So
and they just beat Bama last year.
Yeah, and the U's not a juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. They haven't been for forever. So going on the road at night is never easy. And if A&M was looking ahead to this week, well, we're at this week now, so they should be ready to play. I think we're going to get, like I said, this is a whip game. This is a whip game where you expect the effort, but you're going to drive the effort out of them, whether they like it or not. And Miami may be ready to come in and play, but I think A&M's good enough to cover that. I'll take A&M, but it's not with a lot of confidence. Thusly, not one of my 5 games.
If I had to pick, it'd be A&M. And like you said, they're no juggernaut since we broke them in 02.
A&M, 02.
I'm saying Miami's.
No yeah. Hell yeah. we broke that program completely when we beat them. Beautiful. 20th anniversary just got celebrated in the shoe. One last game we'll look at is Fresno State at USC. Only 12.5-point favorites for the Trojans. Is this one of your ballsy pick? This is your other ballsy pick?
This was my third ballsy pick. I had 5 of our regular picks, and then I've had success over the years betting these. It's whether I actually have the balls to bet money on them or not. And this is one of those. I would have had USC last week at +9 or -9, I think it was, and they ended up winning by like 13 against Stanford. It was another one that seemed too good to be true, so you bet the opposite. This is the same deal. Their offense was firing on all cylinders, and we had touched on it previously where they're getting 5 turnovers a game. That is not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to keep happening. So it's suspiciously low to me. So then I took Fresno +12 or 12.5.
Yeah, I thought that way last week with Stanford and got burned, so I'm staying away from it this week. I'll take SC to win by like 15.
I'm right.
I don't think they're that great. I really don't. Like you said, when you get that kind of turnover luck, you should be whooping teams. If you're forcing 5 turnovers a game.
My theory on you had Stanford last week betting against USC. You lose on black, you bet black again, you're going to win.
This is a gambler's fallacy, my friend.
It's independent.
Every spin is the exact same odds as the previous spin. But it's fun to think that way. Yeah. All right. All that said, real quick, your 4 playoff teams after week 2. I think I still have what I had last week, which was the very boring Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. Even though I'm not impressed with Clemson yet at all, but their schedule is just looking easier and easier as it keeps going.
Yeah, that's my 4 for now. But I will say Alabama, I've lost confidence in them. But their toughest games, I mean, what did A&M just do? I mean, they're not losing.
Tennessee might be their hardest game because their division looks weak right now.
Yeah,
the SEC West has low key been really bad in this non-conference. LSU and A&M already have losses. We know Mississippi State's not that great. Arkansas looks good, and they go to Arkansas. That could be the game that they lose, but I'm not too confident.
Right.
What was that?
SEC West.
Yeah.
And I'd say the Big Ten East might be the best conference.
SEC East has looked good, to be honest with you. I mean, even though obviously Florida took a loss, but it was to an SEC East team last week. But Florida beat Utah, Georgia thumped Oregon, and Tennessee beat Pitt last week at Pitt. Like they probably, in terms of actual wins, they might be the best division so far.
Yeah. So I'd say those are my 4. If Alabama would have lost to Texas like they should have, I might put USC in there over Bama. But now
I'll take Utah still to beat them. That was my original pick this year.
They'd have to win out, though. I don't know. The Pac-12 champ, if it's not USC, will likely have 2 losses, I feel like. Yeah. But Bama, it's just they don't look like Bama of old or what I expected to see so far. But they'd have to lose a regular season game and lose to Georgia in the title game to not make it. And I see that happening now. I think they're likely both to go undefeated regular season. They dodged that bullet already. I guess Auburn or maybe Tennessee is the most likely team to bring them down, but then they're still going to the SEC title game. They can beat Georgia, and then they're both still going.
Yeah. Very, very, very likely possibility at this point. All right, that's our show for this week. hopefully you all make some money, and hopefully we do a lot better than we did last week. I'll run through them again real quick. I had Ole Miss minus 16, Washington minus 3, Georgia minus 24, Minnesota minus 27, and Texas Tech plus 10. The Direwolves dimes or dandies or delights, we'll see. BYU plus 3.5, Auburn plus 3, Georgia minus 24, UConn plus 47.5, and Ohio State minus 32.5. And Hoss Handies plus 3.5 for BYU, Penn State minus 3, Vanderbilt plus 3, UTSA plus 12.5, and Miami plus 5. Thanks for tuning in. Give us some likes, comment down, let us know who's going to win the games this week and why we're stupid and wrong. And just like us and follow us on social media, Twitter at View from CDEC. We will see you guys next week.
Hey, guys. Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.